So we go to the readings. The first reading today, the Herodians and the Pharisees, they have nothing in common. The Pharisees don't want to pay the taxes. They hate the Romans, right? And so, but the Herodians, they are sympathizers with the Romans and with Caesars and Herod, the king, right? And so they have nothing in common. They oppose each other, but they get together to set a trap for Jesus because they don't like Jesus. So they're trapping him by asking him a question in which there's no win. He said, teacher, first they flatter him, right? We know that you're a good person, you're an honest person, you speak the truth and you don't care about what other people think. That way he will speak his mind. And then they said, teacher, should we pay the tax to Caesar or not? And he knows, he could see right through their trick, their trap. Because if he says, yes, you should pay the tax, then the Pharisees and a lot of the Jewish people will oppose him. Because they feel like if they're paying the tax, they're not paying their worship to God. Because that's what Caesar wants. Not only tax, but worship. And then if he says, no, you should not pay the tax, then the Herodians and the Romans will kill him, right? Because he is an agitator, somebody who's rebelling, right? So there's no win. But the way he answers it is that, show me a coin in which you pay the tax. And then they showed him the coin and they said, whose image is this? And he says, they said, it's Caesar. And then he said, well, pay to Caesar what belongs to Caesar, and then pay to God what belongs to God. So this coin with Caesar's image, okay, that belongs to him. But what belongs to God? Who, in whose image and likeness are we made? God, right? So because there's the coin, there's an image of Caesar, it belongs to Caesar, but all of us are made in the image of God. So we belong to God. So that's what he's telling the people. Yeah, pay the tax, but give your life to God. Because you belong to God. Everyone belongs to God. So I was looking at some pictures of mine because someone wants to write a story about my vocation. And back then, I was living for myself. I didn't realize that I belonged to God. I thought I belonged to myself. I could do whatever I want. Buy a big house, buy a fancy car, date beautiful girls, whatever. But now I've changed with God's help. Now I realize that my life is not mine, but it belongs to God. And so therefore I try to live for him. But you don't have to have a vocation to realize that. Know that each of you, everything that you have, everything that you are, all the good that you have belongs to God. It was given to you by God as a gift. Your life, your career, your family, your studies, your assets, whatever you have belongs to God. So that's what Jesus is saying. Don't live for yourself. Give back to God what belongs to God. Give your life back to God. So that's what we should do. And not only our life, but everything belongs to God. Even people in power, their power comes from God. Right? In the first reading, God uses Cyrus, the king, to defeat the Babylonians so that he can free the Jewish people, so that they can go back to their homeland. He is using him as his instrument. He's giving him the power to defeat the Babylonians in order to free the Israelites. He doesn't know that. He said, even though you don't know it, I have anointed you, I have empowered you, I have chosen you to be my instrument. And before that, he chose the Babylonians to punish the Israelites for their infidelity. Right? So people with power, secular power, they too belong to God. That power was given to them by God, entrusted to them by God. Remember when Herod called in Jesus, said, speak to me because I have the power to crucify you. And Jesus says, no, you don't. Any power you have is given to you by my Father. You have no power over me. Right? And it's true. It's true. So all the authorities, myself, the bishop, the President of the United States, Our power comes from God. It's entrusted to us. And if we misuse it, then we have to pay the price, right? So the election that's coming up, whatever the result is, whoever wins, that's given to them, to that person by God, entrusted to them. Maybe 4 years, maybe 8 years, we don't know. But that's, so all the authorities, all power comes from God. So their power is subordinate to God. All secular powers are derived from God and has to subordinate to God. So if the government comes out with a law that is contrary to God, who are you going to follow? The government or God? God, right? So just because the government says it's okay to have an abortion, do we go and have an abortion? No. If the government says it's okay to kill an old person, do we go ahead and kill the old person? No. If the government says it's okay for same-sex marriage, do we go ahead and do that? No, right? We follow God's law, not the government's law, because their power comes from God. If they want to abuse that power and make laws that are contrary to God's will, they can do that, but we don't follow it. We follow God. So like our life comes from God. We have no right to end it. We don't have no right to abort a baby. That baby belongs to God. The parents do not have a right to take the life of that child. An older person, their life belongs to God. No one can euthanize them. No one can hasten their death. It ends when it ends, when God calls that person to him. And marriage is a gift from God. It belongs to God when he created Adam and Eve so that they may come together as man and wife. So we don't redefine marriage. We don't manipulate marriage to fit what we want. No, it's a gift from God. It belongs to God. And the same thing with gender. The gender that we are born with, that's a gift from God. It belongs to God. We don't have a right to change our gender because it doesn't belong to us. So everything ultimately belongs to God. And we give it back to God. We don't manipulate it or change it or use it in a way that's contrary to God's will. So we give thanks to Jesus for just that one saying, reminding us so much, giving us so much information, how important it is. He reminds us that our life belongs to God. We belong to God. He created us in his image, and he paid a high price for us. He paid the price of the blood of his Son. So we belong to him. My life is not my own, but it belongs to God. And then all power, all government powers, all authorities derive their power from God. And so we were chosen, just like the Thessalonians in the second reading, right, to bear witness to Christ, to be faithful to him in this world. And so we do that. We ask for the grace to be faithful to Christ and not because we know that everything belongs to God.